Back again with another review, and today we're going to talk about and review The Last Stand with Arnold Schwarzenegger, 2013 film. And I did see this in the theater when it came out, and I remember at the time being excited because, Arnold is starting to come back. He had made a cameo in The Expendables. I mean, this is after his run as the governor, so here he's back, in the lead role of a film, and rewatching this again, The Last Stand to me is an entertaining popcorn flick. And to be honest with you, I feel it's Arnold's last good movie. I mean, you think about what came after this, Escape Plan, which to me is underwhelming. Sabotage, I haven't seen. Maggie, I haven't seen. I don't know much about that. Terminator Genesis, which to me sucks. Then after that, you had what? Aftermath and, Killing Gunther and Terminator Dark Fate, which I already ranted on. So I'll be watching that again. So when you look back over the past, 8, 9 years, to me, this is his last good movie. Especially when you get into that second half of the film and you get into the action. I mean, it definitely brings you back to the days of, Commando. And I'm not saying that, this is up there. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying this is on the level of Commando and Predator and Red Heat and so on. But I thought the action was really fun. And I'll get more into that. But the plot real quick. So you had the small town. You have Arnold's character, Sheriff Ray Owens. And meanwhile, while he's in town, doing his sheriff thing, they establish in the beginning of the film that, the FBI has this fugitive and he escaped. Forrest Whitaker is the lead FBI agent, and the fugitive escaped in this high-tech car. And so he's, on the run, and they figure out that, he's going to pass through this small town, Arnold's town. So when Arnold finds out about this fugitive, he's at first reluctant to get involved. But, he decides to make a stand, to fight back, to stop this fugitive and protect this small town. And that's the plot in a nutshell. So the plot is straightforward. Now, the film is directed by Ji-Woon Kim. And I don't know much about the director. I haven't really seen much of his work. But for a director that I don't really know much about, I thought he did a nice job here directing. I mean, if one thing I can say about the film is that because in the beginning they establish, while you see Arnold and his story, like his, the stuff that's going on in the small town, we're introduced to his team. You have Luis Guzman this guy you've seen before in a lot of films. I mean, Carlito's Way and what have you. And then you have Johnny Knoxville. He's in the film. And, so we're introduced to some characters here in this small town. And at the same time, they're kind of cutting back and forth to, the FBI trying to track down this fugitive. Forrest Whitaker's trying to figure out, where is he going next? And so, I mean, is the stuff with the fugitive in the car? I mean, the car is nice to look at. I will say that the car is really nice. But I wonder if, maybe if they had established that, from jump, because it does a lot of cutting back and forth. And I'm not saying it ruins the film, but that part of the film is not the most engaging. I mean, I can watch it because Forrest Whitaker is a great actor. He keeps me involved. So, okay, I can watch it. It's okay, but, really the stuff that I care most about, okay, Arnold's character, We're introduced to him. We're introduced to some of the townspeople. We're introduced to some of his people, like his crew, like Luis Guzman, Johnny Knoxville, and what have you. But at the same time, the way it kind of cuts back and forth between, what is going on in this town and the FBI trying to track down this fugitive. I thought it's like, I cared more about the stuff that's going on, in this town. Not to say that that was bad direction, but maybe you could have emphasized a little bit more with, Arnold and what's going on there. And you could have established, the fugitive, real quick and just kind of get out of the way instead of like cut it back and forth. But the cast here, Arnold, Arnold's good here. And I do like the fact that they play on his age a little bit, that they factor in that this sheriff, that he's worked, like he's seen stuff before, he's a little bit older. They even mentioned in the film how he's semi-retired. He's worked in the narcotics division before. He's seen bloodshed, but he's not. He's a little bit older. He doesn't move as fast. So I like that they kind of factor in, that aspect of Arnold's character, that he's a little bit more slower, and I like that. I kind of it makes it a little bit more realistic or whatever term you want to use. But so Arnold's good here. Again, you also have Forrest Whitaker. Again, he's the lead, the FBI, the lead of the FBI that's trying to track down our villain. I thought Forrest Whitaker, I thought he did fine in the film. Johnny Knoxville is a lot of fun here. Especially, you see him more in the second half of the film. When the fugitive and his team of mercenaries, they come into the town and the town fights back. Johnny Knoxville is a lot of fun. Again, Luis Guzman, this guy you've seen before. Peter Stormare from Constantine, John Wick 2. He's kind of one of the subordinates. I almost wish, looking back, the guy that played the fugitive, the main villain, he's okay. Like, I thought he was fair. Part of me wishes that Peter Stormare was the main villain. Again, I thought the main villain did fine, serviceable, but it seemed like Peter Stormare, like he seemed more of a villain. He was a villain, but I'm like, maybe he could have been the main villain. Because I liked him in Constantine and John Wick 2. I thought, he seems like a better villain for our main villain. But again, Peter Stormare was good, especially the scene on the bus, which I'll talk about the action here in a second. But, overall, the cast does fine. Again, Arnold's good here. I liked the aspect of throwing in his age a little bit, that he's a little bit more slower. He's not as fast as he used to be, that he's seen bloodshed before. Even like you have a dramatic moment when one of his deputies, when they approach some of our villains. You have a scene in the film where they approach our villains, and one of the officers gets shot, and they're trying to get him back and save his life, but they're too late. And I thought, when Arnold sees that he's, dead in the back seat, I thought that was a nice dramatic moment, and Arnold really sold it. But everybody in the cast is good. Again, maybe the main villain, I think if you have Peter Stormare, because the main villain, again, I thought he did fine. I thought he was serviceable. He almost reminds me a little bit of Benicio del Toro, but, if it was like the diet version of Benicio del Toro. So I'd much rather have seen, again, Peter Stormare, played that role. The pacing, I thought the pacing was fine. It moved along fine. Again, I would say if the director had maybe touched up the first half a little bit, where okay, you could have gotten this stuff out of the way with the fugitive and not do a lot of cutting back and forth. I mean, I get you're trying to, establish what's going on, that the fugitive has his own team of mercenaries that are in Arnold's town, and they're trying to make this bridge and what have you. But I think you could have you could have done that real quick and not do a lot of, kind of cutting back and forth. But the action scenes, when the action does happen, like I said, the second half, that's when it really kicks into high gear. And when the bad guys come into town, you have a lot of really good shootouts. You got the moment with the bus, where the bus comes in, and when the bus comes to a stop, the back door opens and you see Arnold with that machine gun. I don't know what type of gun that is. And then he's firing this weapon, killing bad guys, and Johnny Knoxville's, right there with him. Really great stuff. And then the scene when Peter Stormare's character's on the bus, and Arnold walks in, with that gun, the sheriff, and then kills Peter Stormare. Even Harry Dean Stanton appears in the movie as this farmer on a tractor. I'm like, hey, this is Harry Dean Stanton. But he does appear in the film. And again, you got some good action when the bad guys come into town. Like I mentioned, there's a scene where, Arnold, there's this guy on the roof, and, he's firing at the good guys, and Arnold tackles him, takes him off the roof, and on the way down, shoots him in the head. And then there's one scene where, I think this one guy is getting ready to kill Arnold, and the guy gets shot from the inside because this old lady is right there, like in this little home, and the old lady kills this guy. But yeah, so I mean, I'm not going to really go over every action scene here, but that's where the film really kicks into high gear. It's again at that second half. If you want to say like the first half is more thriller and the second half is more action, you could say that. And then, at the fight at the end, I thought the fight at the end on the bridge, where you have Arnold, and I like the line that the guy's like, you fucked up my car. And Arnold's like, you fucked up my day off. And I like that. It was a good line from Arnold. And the final fight I thought was a good ground and pound fight. I mean, it's not going to be, a classic Arnold fight. But, it's a lot of kind of ground work, ground fight, and then Arnold picks him up, does like a body slam, and the bad guy takes out a knife and, cuts Arnold a couple of times, but Arnold fights back, and, so again, it's a good ground and pound, final fight. And, so I don't know what more I could say about this film. I mean, like I said, maybe the only nitpicks I have is that the first half of the film, I think, could have been touched up a little bit. Whether that be, emphasize more on Arnold, or the town. Like, it does a little, I understand why they did it, why the director wanted to kind of cut back and forth, but I just thought the stuff with Arnold, like his character, the townspeople was more interesting. And you could have just established the fugitive a little bit more quickly instead of doing this kind of cutting back and forth. Again, I understand why. And I think the villain, I thought he was fair, serviceable, but maybe you could have had Peter Stormare play that part, play the main villain, because at least Peter Stormare. I don't know if the fight would have... I wonder if Peter Stormare played the villain... how do you think the fight would have been on the bridge? I mean, so I don't know. I mean, but I think Peter Stormare is a better actor than the guy that is the main villain. But, good support from Luis Guzman and Johnny Knoxville. I kind of, like, watching this again, I'm like, I just want to see a movie with those two guys, Luis Guzman and Johnny Knoxville, because I thought they were a good sort of pair. They had a fun banter going on. Especially the scene where, they go to Johnny Knoxville for weapons, and you have a fun little bit in there where, Luis Guzman takes out the sword, and it's definitely a ode to Conan. And Arnold's like, "What are we fighting in the Crusades?" So, yeah, I mean, it has a little bit of humor in the film. I thought it was balanced, nicely. It wasn't overdone. So you have a little bit of that humor in here, with some of the characters, some of the, crew, Arnold's team. But at the end of the day, again, The Last Stand, it's a entertaining popcorn flick. Not perfect, I'm not going to say that, but I thought, for Arnold's return here as a main lead, and it's an action film. If you want to say the first half is more suspense, and then the second half is more action, yeah, I can see that. Um, yeah, so if you haven't seen the film, definitely go check it out, and I do recommend it. But that's my review of The Last Stand. Thank you for watching, and up next, we'll be reviewing Escape Plan. So stay tuned for that, and have a good day.